What's up, you guys? If you're seeing this on YouTube, you guys are catching the live replay. I'm currently live on TikTok. So let's see what questions that people have for us today. If any of you guys want your own natal chart reading or progress natal chart reading, the information for all of that is going to be on my website under readings, and that's going to be in the description box below. What about Lilith in Scorpio? Lilith is our dark side, okay? So when you have Lilith in Scorpio, you kind of have to look at the dark side of Scorpio. So what is it, right? Scorpio can be very possessive. Thank you so much, Fairy Goddess. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So back to Lilith, I'll get to you, Ali, in just a second. So what's the dark side of Scorpio, okay? It is either being possessive or jealous or manipulative or like covert manipulative. So that's kind of like when you have Lilith, you want to see what's the dark side of that sign. You might take on some of these traits. You want to be able to integrate these traits within yourself and just be aware that you might have them, okay? So Lilith and Scorpio could be very possessive, okay? They could be very secretive, mysterious. It could also be a lot of like using your sexual energy to get places, things like this. Let's see. You said, girl, the dreams you've been dreaming. So as a person with 12, everything in the 12th house. Oh, what kind of dreams have you been having lately? Fairy Goddess says, what if your Lilith is within your stellium? So when I see that, can you tell me what, oh, you said it's in the first house. Thank you for sharing and thank you for the likes, you guys. It pushes the video out there, so it definitely helps. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, okay, when you have Lilith like in the stellium, right? The way that I see it is like you have to integrate the shadows of that sign or house to kind of activate the positive aspects of that sign or house. So what does this mean, right? You have Gemini, Mercury rising, and then you said you have a stellium in the first house. So it's like for you to be a leader, right? Which is kind of like that first house energy, to be a go-getter, to kind of be in like that top position. You might have to integrate the shadow side of the first house, which could be kind of like short-term gratification, dropping projects, starting things, not finishing them, things like this. So you can kind of look at it that way. And then same thing with Gemini. What's the shadow of Gemini, right? So the positive side of Gemini is through the messenger, right? To communicate, to speak, to write, maybe sometimes teach if they bounce off of Sag, right? But overall, it's the throat chakras, the written or the spoken word. What is the shadow of this, right? Not speaking your truth. Sometimes I notice Gemini energy can even go into like people pleasing more than Libra, especially when you have it in the Lilith and it's like your shadow self, right? So it's like you might have to integrate those shadow aspects to kind of activate like the positive aspect of that. Let's see what else you guys thinking here. Let's see. Oh my gosh, thanks for the likes, you guys, and thank you for the shares. Thank you, Derka. Thank you. Let's see. Ali says, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, South Node. You said WTH, does that mean? You saw all of your videos on it. So you have Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and South Node. Can you tell me what sign is it in? Did you message below? Can you tell me what sign is it in and what house you have all of that in? You said you're right there in the dreams, but you are always, it's always been like that. And it's just like you're always working. Yeah, okay, that's something that's happening. You know, I feel like we are working in the astral plane. Like that's just the way that I see it. Like when we're going to sleep, we're not really resting, like the body's resting, but the soul is elsewhere, right? So it's like you have people who interpret dreams and they're like, okay, it's your subconscious. Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes it's the subconscious that's like rearranging itself. So it's like, let's say during that day, you were like debating, you know, should I buy this shirt or should I buy that shirt? And then maybe in your sleep, you know, the subconscious kind of like rearranges itself and you're resting and all these things. And it's like, you have a dream of like the shirt you actually wanted to buy. Like, yeah, it could be this, right? But sometimes we're going off into the astral plane where it's like we're working in the astral plane. Have some of you guys heard about Mall World? I'm curious to know, because Mall World is this like place that a lot of people go to and it's like a collective experience. They go to this place in their dreams. There's like a whole Reddit thread about it. And it's like these people go to like the same rooms and like people have like created like pictures of the rooms. It's wild, right? So it's like, what is this, right? So it's like, are we creating things in dream time when we're out of body? I mean, there's so many different explanations, right? Let's see. Yeah, exactly. You are definitely psychic. Yes, I do readings. I do natal chart readings and I do a progress natal chart. So if you're interested in that, it's going to be on TikTok in the bio, okay? On my website under readings. If you're watching the YouTube replay, it's going to be in the description box below, also on my website. Hey, Jess. Oh my gosh, that's such a kind message. Thank you for your comment. You said sun in the first house so much. Yeah, sun in the first house gives you the undertone of having a Leo rising. So you're kind of like here to shine, right? to kind of present something to the world, to be yourself, to be theatrical. So that's kind of Sun in the first house. What else are you guys saying in here? You said North, no, you said all in the 12th house and it's in Capricorn. I mean, having Capricorn in there is really nice. Okay, what I will say, Ali, for you is it's so interesting. I was just thinking about this yesterday. It's like the people who have a lot of Capricorn energy have just like been going through it because it's like all of your placements were aspected by Pluto, right? So my suggestion is go back and see when Pluto went into Aquarius. Oh my gosh, thanks so much for the likes, you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Go back and see when Pluto first moved into Aquarius. It was like May, June of this year, and kind of see what were the themes in your life during that time, because it's like from 2024 onwards, you're gonna finally get a break from from Pluto aspecting everything, right? And then it's like, it's also aspecting your 12th house. You know what I mean? So it's almost like a lot of karmic clearance and changes and transformations. And for a lot of people, like a lot of even millennials who have like Uranus and Neptune and Capricorn, I was kind of seeing that a lot of them were going to start coming online, okay, energetically from 2024 onwards. Now, this doesn't mean that it's like the clock strikes 12 on January, whatever the date, right? And like now it's all of a sudden all different, but you're going to get a relief, right? So a lot of people were doing shadow work, healing, all these types of things that had a lot of Capricorn energy, so they could kind of be prepped, right? So with you, it's like, it's in like the psychic realms, right? So probably during this time, maybe you were becoming more aware of your psychic gifts, how to work with them, how to anchor them. And then when Pluto goes into Aquarius, you'll finally get a break from that like Plutonian energy. Because when Pluto was in Aquarius, it felt like a whole new world. And then Pluto went back into Capricorn, and it was kind of like this like overlay that just like kind of came through, like this cloud, you know? It's kind of just like this dark cloud. And that's basically the rest of this year. Now, I'm not saying for people to put their life on hold, right? So that's the thing with like astrology. It's like there's always something happening in the world. But like people who have Capricorn energy in their chart, like they'll really feel this. Hey, Jerica, welcome. Let's see, what else you guys saying in here? Yes, definitely check. It's not when Pluto was retrograde last. You want to see when Pluto was in Aquarius last. So just type into Google and be like Pluto in Aquarius, like start date. It was probably like this year. I think it was like May. It was like May, maybe to like June. It was like 6 weeks. It went into Aquarius and then it went back into Capricorn retrograde. And the thing is, it's like when a planet goes like back, right? So it leaves the sign, you know, it kind of did like, especially in terms of Pluto, right? It kind of went through that sign. It did whatever destruction it had to do. And then you get a break and then it goes retrograde back. It's like, it's even more of like the intense energy. Like it's even more destruction. It's even more like chaos. And like a lot of things that are just like breaking apart. And I have mentioned in the past for Pluto and Capricorn, it's like breakdown of the ego. It's going to be anything that's like shadow masculine, right? So a lot of narcissism, people being like exposed, but like every day, like it's on like a macro and a micro level, right? So it's like people who are like scammers. I wrote this on my threads the other day. I was like, I hope that all the scammers and the con artists enjoy the rest of Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn, because it's like, you know, that was just like the time, you know, and they were thriving. And then Pluto's going into Aquarius and that's not going to thrive anymore, right? It's going to be more about the self. It's going to be more about like who you are as a person, right? So like as we go into higher and higher vibrations, things that are kind of like shadowy and dark aren't really going to be able to prosper anymore, right? That's why a lot of people are going through the breakdown of the ego. And a lot of people don't really have a choice. So that's kind of like what's rough overall for individuals. So that's kind of what's happening for the rest of this year. So it's like if things feel like intense or like whatever it is, it's literally because Pluto is in Capricorn retrograde and everyone is working through and healing through something within themselves, because we all have these energies within us, right? So it's like everything to do with like even like peak narcissism. I kind of feel like our society has gotten to peak narcissism. So a lot of this is kind of being broken down, right? So that's something that's taking place. And another thing that I was actually psychically seeing, which is something that I thought was interesting, was we're going to move away from like people and like quote unquote influencers who are like flashy, who are like all about like showing you their like rich lifestyle. Like that's not going to be a flex anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like people are going to be over that stuff. So that's from like Pluto and Aquarius onwards. You're welcome. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? You said, how bad is it to have your moon in opposition with Mercury? Oh, that's intense. You have a Virgo moon and then you have a Pisces Mercury. Oh, that's really, really interesting, because it's like Virgo can be analytical, you know what I mean? And then Mercury is ruled by Virgo, right? Co-ruled by Virgo and Gemini. And then it's like in the Mercury where it's like kind of like supposed to be more logic, you're more in the Piscean feeling aspect of things, and then moon is feeling. So it's like, first of all, there's that's going on, right? What I will say for Moon and Virgo, like what's really good about this energy is like, it's very good at grounding psychic information, but then having Pisces, Mercury, you like go off, right? You're like dreaming and daydreaming, and it could be like this and it can be like that. So you might have a lot of push-pull between like the emotional world and the logical. Like, is this constant battle between like heart versus logic is really what that is. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Yeah, you said you remember that video. I know. I try not to like put those two words together, Ali, and what you said. I try to make it general. So I'm like everybody talking with a microphone, not just one group, because I don't like singling the group out. But yeah, you catch my drift. You caught the drift. Okay, let's see what else you guys saying in here. You're welcome. You said, yeah, you do. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah, if you were to mention that. So the great thing about astrology is as soon as like certain non-believers of astrology, you know, hear astrology, they're going to dismiss the video right away. And then especially people who are like in shadow masculine energy, like they've already dismissed it. Do you know what I mean? As soon as they hear like you being like Pluto and Capricorn. So it's like, it's getting to the target audience. You know what I mean? So it's like, even though the message is there and I'm trying to deliver like a specific message, but it's coded because I have Mercury in the 12th at the end of the day, y'all still catch my drift with what I'm saying, right? So that's the thing. Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. And then they like all like come and then they like become keyboard warriors and it's just like this whole thing. And I'm just like, I really don't want to deal with that. So I make it like general. You guys catch my drift. Hey, oh my gosh, Palasami. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. I was excited to wear that dress. How are you doing? How are you guys doing? If you guys have questions about astrology or natal charts, metaphysics overall, dreams, in terms of dreams and like decoding, I'm not like too good at decoding dreams, to be honest. I'm still trying to figure out like what are we doing in the astral plane? Do you know what I mean? Like what's happening? And a good way to try to like understand is kind of like Inception. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's interesting because it's like in the movie Inception, like they're able to build with their mind, right? Like in the dream, you know? And I feel like we could get there. Like I feel like we could get there in the physical reality, but we have a lot of resistance to break through and a lot of healing. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things that are like the devil card in the tarot. Do you guys know? So it's like in the tarot, you have the devil card where it's like, it's anchoring you to the physical reality. So it's like pulling you down, right? You want to go up into the higher chakras. What else should we talk about? You said back then there were a lot of fights around you. Yeah, Capricorn energy. I've noticed Capricorn people can be like very tough. Sometimes they can be like intimidating even. What else? To other people, but like they're like the best people. Like I love Capricorn people. Like they're so real. Like you just know they've been through a lot. They don't have time to waste on like fakeness and like fake activities and like snakery and like these types of things. Like Capricorn people are awesome if you kind of get through like the shell. Do you know what I mean? So let's see what else you guys saying here. You said, what do you think about the eclipse that's coming? Can you tell me what sign is the eclipse in? Let's see. Yes, Capricorn gang. Oh my gosh. Hey, Nusha. Yeah, I literally love Capricorn people. You said, yeah, people think you're stuck up and you've kept a smile like you're a good girl, but lately you can't. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. The whole reason I started walking around with like a semi-smile on my face was back in the day I used to work in retail, and then people were like, oh, you have like an RBF. And I was like, this was like way back when I was like 16 years old. So from working in retail, I just like started like smiling all the time. So now I just kind of like have like a semi-smile when I'm like walking around. And I think that's just like very inviting. I don't know, because like so many like random people start talking to me like everywhere that I go. But I honestly don't mind because I love talking to random people because then they just like tell me their life story. And it's like, you meet so many interesting people that way, you know? It's funny because it's like, where was I? I can't remember what I was doing, but I was like, some random person started talking to me and I was thinking in my head and I was like, people these days would be like, don't talk to me, or like, oh my gosh, that was so like this and I was so like that. But I was like, I love like those types of experiences, you know what I mean? Obviously, as long as they're positive, like an interesting story and like whatever, right? Let's see what else you guys thinking here. You said, all you know is you sleep, is that your BHAS are working overtime. I don't know what you mean by that. Can you elaborate? You said it must be our retail days. Oh my gosh, yeah. I worked in retail for 7 years. It was actually my favorite job ever. Like I loved it so much. But I think the reason I loved it so much was because my manager gave me so much freedom, like in terms of like the scheduling. Like we worked together and I was like, you know, in school at that time. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can't, you know, work on this day because I have an exam. And she's like, okay, no problem. And then it was just like so fun because it's like, I was like the younger one. I actually got my job when I was 15. But here, like, you can't start working until you're 16. So I had to wait until my 16th birthday. So it was like so much fun, right? They actually waited for my 16th birthday. They put me in the system, and then I started working with like all these older people. You know, when you're younger, you think it's like so cool to like work with like all these older people, and like we would go out, and then like, you know, I would like find my way to get into places. I'm sure you guys catch my drift. Let's see what else are you guys seeing in here. You said, how can I tell when you're supposed to meet your soulmate, significant other in your birth chart? Honestly, I don't do predictive astrology because I do like an element of surprise, but there are people that would be able to tell you that. There are people that would be able to do the calculation. Like, some people are really good at that type of stuff, so I wouldn't be able to tell you though. Palasami says, LOL, Aquarius sun / Capricorn moon, bestie, cut our hang because you were busy for 2 hours. Haha. That's so funny. Yeah, I love Capricorn moon too. Let's see. You said you think Libra too. Absolutely. Solar Libra. Lunar and full moon is in Taurus on the 28th. Okay, hold on. So there's a solar eclipse in Libra. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're entering eclipse season now. So what you guys can do is you can see what was happening in the last eclipse season, which again, I don't know. I mean, I should know, but like you can't just keep track of everything these days. There's just like so much, right? But look and see, and then you'll have probably a lot of things like coming to the surface. When we have an eclipse, it's like it's things, you know, being illuminated, like things that are, you know, like shining, like a light is shining on something, like you're seeing something that maybe you've never seen before. Are you overing partying, etc.? You're such a granny nowadays. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know, because it's like, okay, so I don't drink alcohol anymore, but like I still love going out. Like I've gone through my phases. So I went through like my hardcore partying phase, and then like I stopped, and I went into like super like crown town, like hippie, you know what I mean? Like that type of vibe. Like, you know, I saw girls post the other day, and she was like, oh, I just want to go home, and like I pass by the clubs, and I'm like, ew. And then I'm like, but I still go out. Like now I still go out. Like I love being out and like dancing. So it's like, it's really interesting because it's like, there was a point after, so I would go out, and then I went through my like pause phase, I guess, like where I was more hermity and like, again, like, you know, like peace, love, and happiness, and love and light, and like that phase. So I was in that era, and then during that time, basically, like, you know, you get over it, right? So then I was like, oh my gosh, like I started going out again. And it was interesting because when I was in the hermit phase, I would feel more drained going out. But it's like, I almost kind of feel like I energetically like balance my energy. So I still like going out, even though I don't drink or anything like that. I still like going out. I like dressing up. I like dancing. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just like really hyper, like as a person. Let's see what else you guys saying. You said your north node is in Virgo, and you said your south node is in Pisces. North node in Virgo, south node in Pisces. That's the healer. It's access. So basically, you're here to help people. You're here to help people. You're here to heal people. You said you don't drink either. Oh my gosh, yay! I love it. 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 You said north node in Virgo. Okay, so back to north node in Virgo and south node in Pisces. You're here to heal people, okay? In one way, shape, or form. In this lifetime, maybe it's going to be you being of service in a more grounded and practical way. Maybe in a past life, it was more like crowny and metaphysical. So maybe in a past life, maybe you were an artist, or maybe you were like a filmmaker, or maybe you were like a photographer, or whatever. Maybe you were a psychic. And something also what's interesting with north node, south node, you guys, is like something like a way that you can look at it is like the south node can be like something that you've already kind of mastered but didn't get to express. So it's like maybe in a past life you mastered like, I don't know, like being super psychic and intuitive, or like whatever. Maybe you were super creative but you didn't get to express that, right? Boom, you come through in this lifetime, right, with Virgo, and now you're able to maybe ground it more. Give me 1 second, you guys. Like the yellow background in the videos. Let's see, did it load officially? Okay, I'm just going back up to see. I'm just seeing with this light situation, it feels kind of bright. Let's see. Okay, that's better. Let's see what else you guys seeing in here. Do you think being a personal trainer would be a good career choice for Taurus midheaven? I mean, I don't see why not. Taurus likes to build. I'd have to look at your whole natal chart though to see what's going on with like the overall vibe. But yeah, like I don't see why not. Like Taurus is very grounded, you know what I mean? So as long as Taurus is building something getting to some sort of gains and some sort of like, you know, financial like reward, and like maybe it's like a gym that maybe you want to open up eventually, because I know you have Capricorn in your chart, right? So it's like as long as you're achieving that, the Taurus energy is going to be satisfied in the midheaven. It's kind of like, the thing is, like, midheaven is how we present ourselves to the world. It could be career, like it could be the vibe of the career, right? But overall, you kind of want to see like everything in the natal chart to see what's going on. Oh my gosh, no way. Yeah, I was picturing like, I don't know if you guys know those like elite gyms that are like higher end, and like, oh my gosh, there's like a gym here where it's like, it's very like, there's so many things going on inside. There's like an arcade and like all these types of things. So that's kind of like what I was picturing. Yay, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that resonated. Sag moon, yeah, Sag moon wants freedom. Okay, you know what's interesting about Capricorn, you guys? So the way you guys can look at the signs is like, you can look at the sign as the first house of that sign, and then you can look to see what's the 12th house, right? So with Capricorn, Capricorn wants to do business, right? Like they want to have their own business. So that's like the first house, right? This doesn't matter. This isn't like the houses in your natal chart. This is just like the sign when we look at the sign overall, right? So Capricorn being the quote unquote first house in this like theory, right? I don't know if this is a thing. It's just like the way that I see it. So Capricorn being the first house, then you look to see the 12th house would be Sag. So it's fueling, right? The 12th house energy would be the soul. It would be like the soul's desire, the inner desire, right? So it's fueling the Capricorn energy is this inner desire for freedom, right? So that's why Capricorn is interested in business and entrepreneurship, because what's fueling them is the Sag 12th house, which is that freedom energy. Let's see, what are you guys saying in here? You said you're so salty. Don't worry, I'll get to your question. Meek from Venus. Let's see. Don't worry, the connection didn't drop. I just went to turn the light on. Let's see. Where was your earlier question? So we did your North Node in Virgo and South Node in Pisces. Let me know if you heard that part. And then afterward, you said, what does Sag Pluto square all of that mean? So Sag Pluto, what is it squaring? Let's see, it's squaring your North Node and it's squaring your Pisces. I mean, that could be tension when it comes to your life purpose. That could even be like karmic things that you have to clear in terms of like the past life to activate the current life purpose. Then let's see, what did Fairy Goddess say? You said, yes, socializing always charges you. You have a glow when you can have a few cocktails, dance, and laugh. I love it. Yeah, like we should be socializing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, especially after the whole like situation in like the past few years, it's like people were like locked up in their house and like by themselves and just like on their phones, and it's like, you know, we should be out there socializing and talking and like meeting, you know, people and each other, you know. Let's see. But obviously, again, like everyone has different phases, like what different phase you're in. Let's see, what do I prefer, Placidus or whole sign? I do my readings in Placidus. I know some people prefer whole sign. I don't know what to say, because every time I give the same answer, you have to see what resonates most in your natal chart if you're going to do readings. And if you're going to do like predictive astrology, then you have to do your own research, right? And see like what was happening, you know, with the whole system, whichever system you're looking at, what was happening in Placidus when Pluto was in Capricorn last, and like all the aspects and these types of things. Okay, well, does that help you make a prediction for the next time? Or you do that for whole sign, right? When you look at whole sign, okay, last time Pluto was in Capricorn, what was happening in the world during that time? That's another thing, you guys, too. Okay, so another thing also that I've been thinking about recently is like when we look at the generational placements, right? So when we look at the generational placements, so like let's say Pluto in Scorpio, which is the millennials, right? We also have to see what was happening during the time when these people were born, right? So some of the millennials, it depends. I've seen it in 1984 natal charts. Depends like what month the people were born in. But some people have Saturn in Scorpio. They have Saturn in Scorpio conjuncting Pluto in Scorpio. Now, I haven't like done in-depth research, but during that time, they had like the AIDS pandemic going on, right? So it's like you have to see what was the energy in the world. Like let's say you were born during that time. Let's say that's like your placement, right? You have to see what's happening in the world during that time and how that's going to have an effect on you. So same thing for overall millennials, like Pluto and Scorpio. Like during the time, right, that these people were coming through onto the earth plane, there could have been maybe a lot of conversations about sexuality or sexual diseases, like these types of things, because there was the overlay of like the AIDS pandemic that was like lingering around. So you can kind of see like how maybe that manifested in the overall energy field of these people as well. So you can do that for everything. Let's see, what else you guys saying here? Welcome. Oh my gosh, you're welcome. Let's see. Erica Joy says, can you explain South Node conjunct Libra rising 17 degrees, North Node 7th house, Aries? You said South Node conjunct Libra rising, 17th degree, North Node, and Aries. Oh my gosh, that's something that I would have to see like in like physical form. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Thoughts on Moon 3rd house square to Venus in the 12th house. Is that a bad square aspect in terms of HO? Was there more to what you were writing? Let's see. You said Sag, midheaven, wearing Nike athletic gear 24/7. Yes, oh my gosh, that's Sagittarius vibes AF. Let's see. So thoughts on Moon 3rd house square Venus in the 12th house. Oh, you said house. Okay, so let me just go back up. You said square Venus in the 12th house. Is that a bad square aspect in terms of houses? So you have Moon square Venus. Basically, is what's going on. There could be tensions when it comes to your female friendships, okay? And just like women in general. That could be something that takes place. Okay, I have to turn this light off. Okay, yeah, I see it's darker, but it's just like I can't be bothered. Okay. So that is Venus square Pluto, or sorry, Venus square Moon. Yeah, so you can have tension in your female relationships. There could be tension when it comes to like, even like when you were younger, like it usually starts with the mother and then it perpetuates throughout your life, okay, in your female relationships, but that's kind of like what a square is, okay? Another thing that could take place is like maybe the mother, like, or something that happened with the mother. If it's not the mother, it's the dominant feminine role in your life. Maybe something that happened with her is in the way of your relationships because it's squaring the Venus, so that's something that can take place. You said maybe it makes you less able to love. I don't think it's that. I think it's just like more tension maybe when it comes to your relationships. Can you tell me what sign you have in each of those? What do you have in your Moon and what do you have in your Venus? Your Capricorn rising flatmate never leaves the crib. Is that Sag 12th house? So that's the thing. Okay, you have to see, like, if you're looking at the Placid system, is their 12th house also in Capricorn? If they have an interception, they might have their 12th house also in Capricorn. But if it's in Sag in the 12th house, that's interesting. Like, that could make sense because it's like that Sag energy that like wants to be free and like roam around. Well, maybe it's kind of like more hidden and suppressed. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You said you have Moon in Taurus and then you have Venus in Aquarius. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it makes you like unable to love. Like, I think that's up to the person. I just think that there could be karma when it comes to mainly the female friendships, okay? Friendships or relationships if you're into women, right? So it depends, right? Because like, okay, if you're looking at like, let's say you're into women, right? So if you're into women, you're gonna look at the Moon and the Venus, right? And if you're into men, you're gonna look at the Mars, you're gonna look at sometimes they say Jupiter in relationships too. So you're gonna look at these types of things. So it's like, in terms of like the feminine relationships, there could be just like a lot of karma here to clear, right? With like that squaring aspect, because it's like, there's an aspect of you in terms of like the Venus and Aquarius that wants to be free and like free flowing, but then there's also the Moon that wants to be stable, right? So it could be this like push pull between like, you know, like I want to be detached, I want to do my own thing, but like, oh my gosh, I want you with me all the time. Because like Taurus Moon can sometimes be possessive. Let's see what else are you guys saying in here. Can I explain more on Uranus, Neptune, retrograde, and Capricorn in the 3rd house in a natal chart? So you have Uranus, Neptune, retrograde, both of them, and then you have it in Capricorn in a 3rd house. Okay, so this is the way that you guys can look at the outer planets. I have a video on Neptune and Uranus in Capricorn on my channel, okay? So I call these people the leaders of tomorrow. Most of them are millennials, some of them are Gen Z, okay? So some of them are Gen Z, kind of like the older Gen Z people. But overall, these people have like a tough upbringing, okay? And you know what's interesting too? Actually, this was coming through yesterday. So for people who have Neptune in Capricorn, like the struggle here is like a lot of them feel like they are here to start their own business or like be a leader right away or be like a manager right away. And a lot of them kind of went into the workforce. Like this is like the subset of the generation that got the label of entitled millennials, okay? But some of the older Gen Z kids are gonna fall into this. I mean, they're not kids at this point, but regardless, like older Gen Z people are going to fall into that generation as well. It's a subset, right? It's a subset of the generation. So they got that label because it's like within them, right? Because Neptune is like the place that you're dreaming through and you're escaping through. So it's like when you have Neptune and Capricorn, you're dreaming of like money and wealth and climbing and status and like climbing to all these places. But the struggle is like Capricorn makes you work, right? So it's like Some of these people could have maybe done a lot of schooling, for example, right? Came into the workforce. Oh my gosh, like, why am I not a manager yet? Could be this. Or some of these people could maybe have wanted to start their own businesses, started, maybe saw how hard it was, right, to have their own business, and like maybe weren't consistent at it. Because again, Neptune is blurring this, right? So it's like Uranus in Capricorn is like a unique expression when it comes to all of this energy, right? Like it's a unique expression of the Capricorn energy, which is social status, ways of making money, you know, climbing to higher heights and all these types of things. Like that's Uranus's expression in Capricorn. Neptune and Capricorn is blurring all of this, right? So it's like you spend more time dreaming about it. But the thing is with Neptune, it's like wherever you have Neptune in your natal chart, it's like you can anchor it if you put the action along with the idea and the vision, okay? So that's the whole thing with like Uranus and Neptune and Capricorn. Now, another thing, it's like when it's retrograde, well, now this energy is more so internalized, okay? So the sign in here is the overall generation. The house is going to be more so your area of life that planet is affecting, okay? So Uranus and Neptune in the third house, like this is very like unique, right? In terms of like unique ways of thinking. You could be good at astrology, learning like different languages. You could be good at things like coding, even like something that's like a different language, like a computer system, like these types of things, right? Or like a different language altogether where it's like different like types of letters. Like you could be very good at learning these things. Sometimes like Uranus in the third house people have to really learn to like water their information down, right? For the everyday person to understand. Now the thing is it being retrograde, right? You're experiencing this more so on an internal level, right? So internally you might feel like people don't understand you. They don't know what you're talking about, all these types of things, okay? That's Uranus in the third house. Neptune in the third house is escaping through the crown, right? So Neptune in the third house is always like, oh my gosh, thank you for the rose. Neptune in the third house is like, oh my gosh, it could be like this. And I could do it like that. And like you're like escaping, right? Like constantly thinking of things. But again, the trick with Neptune is to take all of this, okay, whatever ideas you've got going on up here, and figure out a way to ground them in the physical reality, okay? So that's the whole thing here. Otherwise, you're stuck in the crown, okay? So this energy can like go into the crown too much to the point where you're escaping through the mind and you're dreaming all the time, especially because it's retrograde, right? So it's like Neptune retrograde is even double of the Neptunian energy because it's more internalized. That's the whole idea. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, Meek from Venus, I hope you're still in the room. You said North Node in the 11th, and then you said South Node in the 5th house. You said you only heard the part about healing. You didn't mention that it was in the North Node in the 11th and your South Node in the 5th house. You did mention that your North Node was in Virgo and your South Node was in Pisces, okay? So this is what I was saying earlier, okay? Basically, what this means when you have the Virgo and you have the Pisces North Node, South Node access, okay? You're here to help people in one way, shape, or form. In a past life, when it's in Pisces, it could have been South Node as your past life, right? It could have been something metaphysical or film and theater and these types of things, okay? That's what could have happened in a past life. In this lifetime, it's more grounded because it is in Virgo. And if I remember, I feel like you asked me before about North Node in the 11th house and South Node in the 5th house because that's that creativity access, right? So it's like in a past life, like maybe you were someone who was like more nomadic, right? And sometimes you can look at South Node as something that was incomplete in that lifetime. Maybe you didn't get to finish some sort of creative project or art project, or because it's Pisces, maybe you were too much in the crown. Boom, you come through in this lifetime, more practical, more grounded, right? So North Node in Virgo in the 11th house, it's like you're basically here to be of service, right? You're here to help the collective, right? Especially because it's also the 11th house. So you're kind of helping the collective be propelled forward, but it's with the mind and it's with the ideas and it's a more grounded approach. So sometimes you guys can look at South Node as like something that you didn't get to fulfill. Maybe you mastered it in that lifetime, but you didn't get to complete it. Because the way that I see it is like, if you finish everything you wanted to do down here, this is just my own opinion. I don't know, other people might have other opinions, but this is just my opinion, okay? If you did everything you wanted to do on this earth plane, you cross out. When you cross out, you're done here, right? That's kind of how I see it. So it's like all of us coming back down here is like we all have unfinished business. Now the whole like trick here is like we come back down and then now while you're down here, you might develop a new desire line, right? And it's like you maybe have this new goal that you want in mind that was maybe different from maybe what you originally wanted. Boom, when you cross out or you're trying to cross out, oh, I didn't get to complete that thing. Boom, you come back down. That's kind of like how I see it. I have a video on that on my YouTube channel. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You're welcome. Oh, have a good rest of your day, Palusami. I think it's day over there or morning. Fairy Goddess says, what if it's at 0 degrees? Okay, then you said never mind. Then you said, does moon square Venus indicate being LGBTQ? That's a good question. I mean, Venus in Aquarius could be. Venus in Aquarius, like you can kind of look at Venus in Aquarius as like very boundaryless, okay? And it's like, when we look at this, right, like LGBTQ plus, it's like, the way that I always saw it personally was like, I see us all as energy, right? We're all masculine, feminine energy. So we're overall moving into more fluid times, right? Like more fluidity, more flowing with the energies. And you see this within the generations, right? So the younger generations like Gen Z and younger, they're more balanced in terms of like their internal energy, in terms of their internal masculine, feminine energy. And it's like we all have masculine, feminine energies within us, right? So it's like, I don't know, I always kind of saw it this way. So it's like Venus in Aquarius, right? Is like, it's already there. You know what I mean? It's already in that futuristic way of being, which is this fluidity, and it is this way of like just being different in this particular area and like unique. So I can see Venus in Aquarius manifesting that way, but moon square Venus, I'm not exactly sure. Barbara, I received a natal chart from you about a month ago and it's been amazing. Yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that that resonated. I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love when I hear feedback from you guys. Stop taking like so serious. What's more accurate, Placidus or whole sign? I get this question literally probably every single live. I get this question every single live, and it's like, it's so hard to say because I know people out there are like, this is better and that's better. And I'm not that type of person. I think there's truth in everything. I don't know, maybe it's because I have Mercury and Libra. I don't know. I see it from all perspectives, right? So I can see how one thing can be true and I can see how another thing can be true. So, and like, I kind of also see it like you can never think that there's only an absolute truth, right? So the only way you can base things is off of your own experience and what resonates with you. That's the only way I can explain it. So it's like, when you look at your natal chart in Placidus, does that resonate more? Or does the whole sign system resonate more? So then you have to look at things. A good way to look at this is again, just my own opinion, is the IC and your descendant, your midheaven, and your ascendant, right? I think I said IC, but I meant to say ascendant, descendant, IC, and midheaven. That axis, okay? Because it's like, you know, it's gonna tell you a lot. The ascendant is your first house, so it's like how you're presenting to the world. Your descendant is what kind of people you're attracting into your life. Then your IC is your home life. And then your 10th house is like how you present yourself to the world. Honestly though, I do feel like the 4th house is going to give you more insight than anything, right? Because it'll tell you about your upbringing. It'll tell you about what kind of parents you had. So you have to see which resonates more. That's the only way to do it. You know what I mean? And then it's like in the different systems, you have different explanations, right? So in whole signs, it's like, okay, every sign occupies a house. But then in Placidus, it's like you have the interceptions, right? And then the interceptions have like their own reason and meaning. And then I've noticed how interceptions, for example, resonate more. So it's like you kind of have to see, right? And it's like, here's another thing too, like all of us, right, as people, we can't be so rigid either. You know what I mean? It's like, just because something resonated, let's say when people first discovered astrology, doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it forever, right? We're always making discoveries of these types of things. So I'm pretty sure like the person who discovered whole signs had like their reason. I can't remember what it was now, but there was some sort of reason why they were like, every sign should have a house. And like, that was like their thing, right? So it's hard to say. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions and metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So let me know if you guys have any questions below. I'm just gonna drink some water. Let's see, what are you saying in here? Give me 1 second. Yeah, I am back. Let's see, sometimes it takes a while to load. Okay, just trying to vibe says, does moon in the 3rd house make you have less feminine energy because of a feminine planet is in a thinking house? That's very interesting. I mean, again, that's something that we'd have to look at your overall natal chart to see what's going on. It's like, the 3rd house is Gemini energy, right? And it's like, yes, you're more mental, but I also find Gemini to be more feminine energy overall. This is just my own opinion of how the energy manifests itself, right? So it's like you could over intellectualize your feelings and maybe not feel them. It could be this, but it's like in terms of like the overall energies, like that's something that I'd have to look at your whole natal chart, see what's going on, how are the energies meshing with each other. Like it's really hard to say from just like one placement whether you're going to be more in one energy or another. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's a combination sometimes of everything to see how it's all flowing. Oh, I'm back. Okay, I was wondering, sometimes it does that. No, I went to drink water and now I'm back. So basically what I was saying was I was answering your question, just trying to vibe, and I was saying like it's hard to say with just one placement because it's like basically The moon, yes, it's your emotional world, and the third house is like Gemini energy, but I personally find Gemini energy to be more feminine overall. So it's like you might over intellectualize your emotions, right? Rather than feel them. Like you could be more in the mind when it comes to your emotions. But it's like in terms of masculine and feminine energy, it's like you want to look at the whole chart. You want to see what's going on with the entire natal chart, what's happening overall, how are the energies vibing with each other, you know? And that's really what that is. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. What about South Node above your North Node? You said 12th South Node and Taurus North Node. Thank you so much for the likes, you guys, in Scorpio in the 6th. So your South Node is in the 12th house in Taurus, and then your North Node is in Scorpio in the 6th house. That's interesting because it's like, okay, here's the thing. Scorpio energy anywhere in a natal chart, Scorpio is seeking power and control. You know what I mean? So it's like the North Node destiny is like when you have the North Node in Scorpio, it can manifest so many ways because it's like Scorpio's end goal is power and control. They don't care what they're doing. You know what I mean? You'll see Scorpionic people either in film or acting. Sometimes presidents have Scorpio energy. Like in the current world that we're living in, money equals power, right? But like sometimes you're chasing specific positions of power. So it's like when you have your North Node in Scorpio, you're trying to get to some form of quote unquote power and control. How this is going to manifest, it really depends on you as a person, like what you deem to be power and control. Because Scorpio Taurus is the money access, right? So it's like in a past life, you could have been very grounded, but not so much because it's in the 12th house. So maybe you weren't that grounded, but your overall life purpose, maybe you were building, right? Maybe you were building towards something. In this lifetime, it could be more metaphysical, right? Where it's like, you could kind of be like, oh, like, let me see how I can energetically bring this thing through, right? How can I anchor it? How can I pull it out of the ethers? It could be this, right? So that's kind of like the overall vibe with North Node and Scorpio. It's kind of like, I see Scorpio energy, like it doesn't matter what they do as long as they're in power and control. But overall Scorpio energy is like sex, death, rebirth, joint finances, taxes, and the occult, okay? So if it is in any of these realms, you could be interested in being a financial advisor with that access, right? You could be interested because it is in the 6th house, so you're still helping people, right? So that could manifest in this way. Maybe you're helping people transform their money or their like financial status, right? Because it's like Scorpio energy, I see it as an additional energy and it's like transforming something, right? So 6th house is the area of life, so the 6th house is the area of health, healing, and being of service. So it's like you can be of service in so many ways, right? Sometimes a financial advisor is of service to someone who doesn't know anything about money, and it helps them heal maybe their own money issues or whatever it is. So it can manifest in that practical way, but it could go all the way into like being an astrologer, for example, as well. You know what I mean? So that's the whole thing here. Let's see. Transform for sure. You said you have to stop yourself from wanting to fix people's lives. That's that access. That's the 6th house, 12th house access. Thanks, Jackie. Oh my gosh. Thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for the kind words. You said intellectualizing emotions is so annoying. Thank you so much, though. You're welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I never understood that because personally, I'm a feeler, right? So I feel everything. So when I hear about people intellectualizing their emotions, I just don't understand what that feels like, because for me everything is about feeling. I don't know if that makes sense, right? So it's like the way that I understand it is like you're thinking about it and you're like, okay, this is my emotion, but you're not actually feeling it. Like that's the only way that I can see that playing out. But it's like that's that moon in the 3rd house energy. It's like over intellectualizing, right? Like you're over intellectualizing your emotions. Oh my gosh, I feel like this. Or it's like you don't, there's like a disconnect, right? So it could be this. What I've noticed with moon in the 3rd house people too is like these people are going to be very smart, okay? They're going to have like a lot of friends. They're going to have a lot of different friend groups. They're always going to need to be like stimulated. You could drop a lot of projects when you have moon in the 3rd house. Sometimes there's a connection with the mother, like that is like telepathic. Sometimes moon in the 3rd house people might be like nonverbal when they're younger. That's something that could take place. What was your Mercury in? I can't remember. It's all the way up there. Let me know what house you have your Mercury in. Welcome to all the people joining. Yay, I am on live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What is up? You said, yeah, you were nonverbal when you were younger. Yeah, that's moon in the 3rd house, because it's like moon in the 3rd house is like, they have like a telepathic connection with the mother. So it's like the mother could have just like known your needs and like you didn't have to verbalize them. So that's something that could have happened. And then it's like, you might expect that out of other people. Then when you grow up, oh, and then you have Mercury in the 12th house. Okay, I was going to ask you because I thought you said that it was in the 12th house. That's another nonverbal placement also, okay? So when you have Mercury in the 12th house, you could also have been like nonverbal or just like started talking later or like not bothering to talk, because it's like Mercury in the 12th house, again, it's like the child is like aware of like the metaphysical realms and like telepathy. So because of this, it's like, I think I mentioned this on my last live, when we talk, we waste a lot of energy. Like we really, really do, right? It's a lot of energy that we're burning. And then in the higher realms, it's all telepathy. And even when you're connecting to like whatever, like anything that is non-physical, it's always through the mind and through like the crown, right? It's always telepathic, right? So people who have these placements like Mercury in the 12th have that ability already. Do you know what I mean? And then also Moon in the 3rd is just like, it's another characteristic. You said you could not talk for years, but now you love you can't stop. That's another thing for Moon in the 3rd. So it's like eventually like when you kind of break through that seal, it's like a purge, right? Then you just like keep talking, right? It's almost like you're like making up for the time lost. Vanessa says you have Moon in the 3rd house too, and then you have a Pisces Moon. Oh, I love Pisces Moon. Pisces Moon is like the lovers in a way, like they're just like, I don't know, in a way they're like gentle. They want like everything to be like high vibe, but definitely stay away from substances. I will say that for a Pisces Moon, like of all kinds. Because like Pisces energy wants to like know how things feel, right? So it's like they could be interested or curious about drugs, for example, because it's like, what does that feel like, right? So that's something that can take place. You said, yeah, you can't stop. You feel like you're making up for it. You really express in words how I feel. Yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that that resonated. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, and questions about your natal charts. But yeah, so Moon in the 3rd house is going to be super creative. They're going to, they might be scattered. Like they're the types that have like 50 tabs open on their computer. Sometimes they don't finish things because it's like, you know, you started your computer venture by like, I don't know, Googling like a recipe for your brownies, let's say. And then through that, you're like, oh, okay, who invented brownies? And then you go on that. And then you go on the next tab. Okay, oh my gosh, that person. Okay, you know, what's that person's birth chart? Okay, oh my gosh. And then what does this placement mean? Oh my gosh, I thought I saw that placement in this person's chart. And then boom, that is that whole Moon in the 3rd house. We're talking about astrology, Moon girl, but just now, currently I was talking about Moon in the 3rd house. No, welcome. He said you have 199 tab opens about birth charts. I'm so glad that that resonated, and you're welcome. And yeah, that's another thing. It's like sometimes the tabs are open in your mind too. That's another thing. So like 3rd house people and Gemini people, like it's like they have these compartments, right? And it's like they can multitask, like they can. But, you know, sometimes, unfortunately, what happens is like, again, if you're underdeveloped or like unaware, you could be also forgetful. So it could go into that direction as well. Charts and inventors, you nailed your personality. You're welcome. I'm so glad that that resonated. Let's see, said yes, for sure. You have another placement that would suggest to stay away from substances, and you can confirm that you get easily addicted to things. Yes. So any of the water placements, anything scorpionic, anything 12th house, anything 8th house. 12th house and 8th house are the main ones, I will say though. Although I noticed Cancerian people sometimes can struggle with alcohol as well. So it depends. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. You said, is October an impactful month for Virgos? You feel this way. Virgo risings? Let's see. Depends. Is your 12th house, or hold on, Virgo rising, is your 12th house, or is your, do you have Libra in your 2nd house? Or is it also in your 1st house, but like intercepted in the Placidus system? I'm curious to know, because it's like October is Libra season / Scorpio season as well. So let's see. You said you have Libra in your 2nd. So probably like maybe it's like fresh starts when it comes to money or jobs. Maybe you like start new jobs during this time, or like things that bring you through money. Maybe this is something. Overall though, for Virgo rising, I'm not sure. I haven't really heard anything about like October being super impactful, because there's always so many things that are going on, you know what I mean, in terms of astrology. Let me just go back up. Hey, Alyssa, baby, how are you doing? Let's see. You said, yes, that's so you. You have Libra Moon in the 3rd house. Oh my gosh, there's so many of you guys. I love it. Moon in the 3rd house. Yeah, that's Moon in the 3rd house, right? Like that's that energy. So when they're younger, they can be inconsistent. Like that's the only struggle with this energy, or they can kind of like make a lot of promises or like overcommit and like these types of things. Like that's something that can happen. But overall, it's like very intelligent displacement. Like they're very like also creative in terms of like poetry, even could be something that you're interested in, or like writing, right? Because it's like you might express your emotional world through writing, right? Because it's like, again, the 3rd house does intellectualize, but maybe it'll be able to find a way to express what it is that they're feeling in terms of words. You said, you said all these third house moons, and then there's you, third house, angry as Mars and Leo. Don't kill me. Mars and Leo, like, I love Mars and Leo though. Like, Mars and Leo is like, I think you also have another Leo placement. Were you Leo rising? Oh no, you had Sun in the first house, which gives you the undertone of having a Leo rising. Mars and Leo, like, they're here to express, right? Like, they're big, like, they're theatrical, right? Like, they're like, everything's big with them, you know, a lot of hand movements, like these types of things. So I like Mars and Leo. You have a wonderful day too. I don't know if you left already, but I'm just seeing your message now. But yeah, Mars in the third house could be a little bit of a struggle. I will say that much. Let's see. Let me go back up. You also find that you think clearer when you're traveling via train or walking. That makes sense because it gives you the chance, right, to go into the crown, you know? So that's the whole thing. It's like when we look at like meditation and like these types of things, we have to like figure out what is our way of wandering, right? So it's like when you're able to go into the mind and wander, what does that look like for you? Some people can meditate and like lie down and like, you know, get like their quote unquote downloads or whatever term you want to use that way. If you don't fall asleep, I don't know, because anytime I try to lie down and meditate, I end up taking like a 2-hour nap. So like, you know what I mean? I'm like, something happens, you know? So it's like for some people, you might have to move, you might have to run, you might have to exercise, you might have to dance, you might have to clean, you might have to be on a train or travel or like walk. Third house, it makes sense, right? Because it's like moon in the third house for you, Alyssa baby, because it's like short distance trips could kind of clear up the vibes for you, right? Like switch it up, like get you out of that routine. And then when you're out of a routine, you enter into like new energy, right? And when you're in your new energy, it's like, you know, new ideas come through because you're in a higher vibration. So it's like something you guys can do to just like manipulate energy also is like, you guys can purposefully do that for yourself. So it's like anytime you guys notice yourself going flat or stagnant or uninspired and you don't know what to do next or whatever it is, do something different in your routine. It could be the smallest thing. Maybe every Wednesday you go to a kickboxing class. Well, maybe don't go to it and then see what happens. Open up that space and then you'll notice right away, as soon as you switch, right, you go into higher vibration. Same thing with like cleaning. When you clean your place, it's like you've cleared the clutter, right? So it's like you're opening up the space. So that's sometimes like why these types of things can energetically open us up to new ideas, to like whatever it is, like downloads, like whatever it is that you're trying to do. Moon in the third house is creative, right? So it's like for them, you know, maybe to get their creative ideas, they have to do one of these things where it's like they go on a short distance trip, like they go somewhere different for the weekend, or walking could be something too, like local, right? Where it's like you're going to the library or you're going to, do people go to the library anymore? I don't know, right? But whatever it is, movie theater, like these types of things. Let's see. You said you're describing me to the T, but your moon isn't in a third house. If you change one small thing, you feel like your life is transformed. Maybe because this is just like everyone overall is like, that's how you manipulate energy. And you know what's interesting, you all? Okay, I'm glad that you guys are in here because I had somebody else ask me on one of the comments and they were asking me about how to use jealous people's energy to manifest, okay? This is my own findings, okay? So I don't know if this is true or not. This is just what resonates with me. You guys can take it if it resonates, leave it behind if it doesn't. I feel like energetically, people can only interfere the ones that are in your inner circle, right? So it's like, let's say you have a plan, right? And it's like, I want to go to school, law school, for example, completely random, right? I want to go to law school. Maybe you tell your inner circle, who knows? Maybe one of your friends has an abandonment wound. Oh my gosh, if you go to law school, you're going to leave me alone and you're going to move on with your life. You're going to forget all about me. Boom, holds you back energetically because they're interfering with their thoughts. This is how things can be interfered. So I've noticed that, like, I think it's like because we allow people into our energetic space and because they have access to us in that way, they can affect the manifestation. But when it's random people that you're not attached to, you can use that energy to manifest, right? So it's like, let's say you tell your friend or whatever, your partner or whoever is in your inner circle, I want to do this thing. Well, let's say they do get jealous or whatever, their wound comes up. They don't want to get abandoned or whatever it is, right? Something like this. They can energetically interfere because like their vibe is like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to leave. And then like we're all telepathic, so it affects the manifestation in this way. I hope that makes sense. But when it's random people, right, it's like you don't have that attachment to you. Like you don't have that attachment to them and they don't have that attachment to you. Do you know what I mean? So like you can use the energy in this way. So the person's question was like, oh, how can I manifest with jealous energy, or like people being jealous of them? And basically what I was saying to them when I read that in my head, and now I'm telling you guys, is like, the best way to manifest is through people's energy, right? So that's kind of what happens in the world overall, but I'm not going to go too much into depth in that. You guys are going to have to read between the lines in terms of that. But what I've noticed is like, if it's in your inner circle and people who you've let into your energetic space, that can affect it, but when it's random people, it can't, okay? So sometimes you can use the energy, right? So you can do a lot of different things where it's like other things too. Let's say you post something, right? And you kind of charge it energetically with your intention, and you think in your mind, it could even be just like a thought. And you're like, oh, like when people look at this picture, they're amplifying my manifestation for me going to law school, as a random example, right? It could be as simple as this. So you can do your rituals and the candle and all this stuff, but the best way to manifest is with energy, okay? So I'm just gonna leave that there. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You said you had to let go of so many friends over the past 2 years exactly because of what you're speaking about. Yeah, that's the thing. Unfortunately, it's like, it's so unfortunate because it's like, people say things where it's like, people can't affect your blessings, or it's like what's meant for you won't miss you, like these types of things. But, you know, in a perfect world, that would be true. But it's not necessarily true, unfortunately. People can affect your manifestations with their thoughts if they're in your inner circle. And the way they're affecting it is because of their wounding. So it's like people, like the way that the world is currently, like a lot of people have a lot of wounds, right? So it's like, whatever it is, maybe it's a money wound, maybe it is scarcity, maybe it's usually like the lower 3 chakras. So it's going to be like maybe an abandonment wound, or maybe it's a sacral wound, or maybe like, who knows, like maybe they don't think that they can do it. Maybe they latch on. There's another one too where they latch onto you and like they kind of want to use you as a power source, or to like make them feel happy or whatever, just like be the light in their life, like all these types of things, right? But it's like, that's all their wounding. So it's like this could energetically pull you back. So this is why healing is important, because it's like, let's say you're a people pleaser. Well, then you might want to keep, let's say your friends happy, and you're like, I'm not going to take this opportunity to go to law school. I don't know why I'm using this random example. Maybe somebody out there needs to hear it. But whatever, it's a very practical, easy example, right? So let's say like, then you're like, I'm not going to go to law school because, oh my gosh, like this person was sad and that person was sad. And it's like, at the end of the day, the way that I see it is like, the way the world has been is like, you know, don't be selfish, or don't, you know, if you put yourself in front of other people or like whatever you want, that's selfish. And then that's all like negative. But it's like, the soul has the path, right? At the end of the day. And it's like, this is how I see karma. Like, it's like, if you don't complete what you want to do, boom, you come back, right? So that's the whole thing here. That's my TED Talk. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Return to sender. Your friend said, your friend tried to say love would be your downfall. You're like, sis, speak for yourself. You would be blessed. Yes. You said, let's see, your sister already told you she's going to be jealous. Oh my gosh, in a sibling way. So this is good. You've been trying to hone in on this. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. Yay, I'm glad that it's resonating. Yeah, that's just what it is. So that's what I've noticed is like, people can affect your manifestations when they're in your inner circle, and other things too. Okay, so here's another example. Let's say, right? Let's say you can do, so one or two things can happen, right? Let's say maybe it's even your partner, right? Or whatever. Maybe you want to start a band. Let's say it's a band, right? If everybody is on board, the more people that you have added, you know, toward the manifestation, so the more energy, again, right? It all comes down to energy. The more people you have added toward the manifestation, and you're all working toward the same thing, it'll manifest faster, right? Because everyone's moving toward it. But let's say you have a band of 4 people. One person is like, whatever, they have some kind of wounding, right? Maybe there's a lead singer and they're jealous of the lead singer. They want to be the lead singer. They could be energetically sabotaging, let's say, the band from moving forward, right? It could be this, you know? Sometimes, right? Sometimes this might happen, let's say, in people's like pregnancy stories, right? Maybe one of the people wants to have a kid, and maybe the other one energetically doesn't, right? You know, and this could be happening subconsciously too. Sometimes it's not like it's ill-intentioned. This is what I mean, right? Sometimes it's just coming from some place that that person maybe has not figured out what that issue is. So let's get like the couple example, right? Maybe the other person who's energetically interfering has their own reason, maybe without realizing, right? This is usually like unconscious, right? So it could be like, maybe they don't want to lose their freedom, and that's energetically blocking the thing. So it's like, sometimes in groups, pairs, and these types of things, you can manifest faster, or the person can energetically hold you back. So it's like, it kind of depends what you want to do. So that's the same thing with like people in your circle. Let's say you tell them something that you want to do. They could either help you and push you toward it energetically. This is all energetic, you all, okay? This is important to keep in mind, this is all happening energetically, okay? This isn't like people are sitting there and plotting like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to interfere? No, okay? Sometimes, rarely, like maybe 1% of the time, there's people like that too, right? But it's like, this is the facts. And another thing in terms of like friend groups and these types of things, it's like everybody's happy while everyone's on the same page. Yeah, everything's great while everyone's on the same page. But boom, let's say one person starts progressing. These people are like, no, right? I need you to come back down. And that's sometimes where you might see narcissism come through. So there's just so many layers to it. Oh, you said basically Destiny's Child has started off with 5, use their energy, then kick them out. Yeah, exactly. There's that too, right? So it's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like sometimes things just aren't a vibrational match. People are gonna fall off, these types of things. So it's like, if we were all able to just like be in like the heart resonance, like literally the heart resonance, you would always be able to flow, right? And then people would align with you no matter what it is that you're trying to do. But it's like the wounding is what holds us back, is the way that I see it. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Sidereal. Okay, I'm going way back up. Okay, sidereal is Vedic astrology, okay? It has different names. I think some people might call it draconian. I don't know if that's the same thing, but sidereal is Vedic. So that is another one of the systems. This one, basically, I noticed also, you know, again, I can't confirm this. I just noticed this from putting in my own chart that they also have Placidus in whole sign. It's just a different system, right? So it's a little bit more ancient too. They have a lot of different like charts. They have like a D9 chart. They have like a D10 chart. I find that sidereal is very focused on marriage. And I find that it's very focused on finding a partner. So if that's what you're trying to like discover, I feel like it'll be good for that. Obviously it has other aspects to it, but it's like a lot of Vedic astrology comes from like back in the day when, you know, they wanted to pair people together for marriages and these type of things. They wanted to make sure that people were a good energetic match. Because sometimes when you put people together energetically, the planets, right, might bring through negative energy into their life, right? Or it could bring through positive energy into their life. So it's really interesting because I don't know where I heard this, or this was maybe a long time ago, but people were talking about like love marriages, and they were basically saying how that's like more so a recent thing. And then like the whole argument with that is like, look in the United States, like it's like 50% of people go through divorce, blah, 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 these things. But if you look at it in terms of like a business deal and a business arrangement, which is what marriages originally were, to look at how the planets are all matching and like meshing with each other kind of makes sense, right? Like it makes sense, you know, but I mean, I'm not going to go too much into that because there's like so many other things to look at, but that's the whole thing with the whole Vedic and sidereal. So it's different. Like they say that Vedic sidereal is based on like where the constellations currently are, like something like this. They say that the Placidus system is like where it was before. So then they say that it's like off in terms of degrees and in terms of the sign. So you'll notice like in Vedic, right? Like let's say right now Pluto in the Placidus Western system is in Capricorn. In Vedic, it's shifted up 1, right? So for them, it's in Sagittarius. So I don't know, it's interesting to see. It's really, really interesting to see because it's like the only way to truly know, and this is just my own opinion, is like you want to see and research with the specific world events and obviously in your own natal chart to see if it resonates with you. But it's like, if you look at the world events and you're doing divination, and then if you're able to predict, like this is like high level, like high level, right? If you're able to get to that point of expertise, then only then you'll be able to be like, this one was more accurate because of this placement and these types of things, right? But up until that point, it's like, it's interesting to know, I guess, all different types of things. Let's see what else you guys think in here. You wanted to ask about Scorpio Venus in the 11th house. Scorpio Venus in the 11th house. That's an interesting placement because Venus in Scorpio is possessive, okay? Venus in Scorpio, I mean, when it's underdeveloped, they can be possessive, but also like the positive aspect of this is like they can want depth, they can want like very serious relationships, but they can attract obsessive people into their life. That's a huge thing for Venus and Scorpio. Oh my gosh. They can be obsessive, but they can also attract obsessive people into their life, okay? So Venus and Scorpio can attract like literally people who are like obsessed with them, right? Like to a point of like unhealthy obsession. It could attract stalkers even. It could to that point of like unhealthy obsession, right? So that's the thing with Venus and Scorpio, because it's like Scorpio energy has a lot of sexual energy, right? So it's like they're very magnetic and like alluring, and like they're not trying to be like mysterious, right? And then Scorpio is always kind of like tapping into people almost before that person taps into them. So sometimes Scorpionic placements like will base their reaction based on what they know the other person might like say or like do. So that's something. So like this is going to be a theme in your friendships and your relationships, because it's like, here's the thing, like Venus and Scorpio, like sometimes they meet people and it's like right away they want to know, like, tell me about everything, tell me about your traumas and like the depths and like all these things. And it's like, you know, sometimes they might come off like very like intense is really what that is, right? So it's like not everybody wants to be kind of like, you know, like kind of read in that way, right? Like right away off the bat where it's like, oh my God, I picked up on this thing about you and that thing about you. Like sometimes that makes people feel very like energetically naked, if that makes sense, right? So that's kind of what Venus and Scorpio struggles with. But ultimately at the end of the day, they're seeking a mind, body, spirit connection. And also they're seeking power. So that's another struggle for them too, because it's like a chicken and the egg, right? It's like as much as they want the mind, body, spirit connection, they also fear it, and they might be seeking for power in their relationships as well. And then all of this can also be people you attract into your life as well. So it could also be you attract people like this, right? Because Venus is the 7th house, right? So it's like all the people and friendships and these types of things. Now, what gives it a little bit of a different energy for you is it being in the 11th house, okay? So it being in the 11th house might be a little bit more detached, right, energetically, compared to like the intense Venus and Scorpio that I just described, right? It might be a little bit more detached. There might be a little bit more breathing room. There might be a little bit more leeway. You might have a lot of online friendships, or you might meet your partner online. Also, what I will say is Venus and Scorpio and Venus in the 11th house. Venus in the 11th house can make money online. Okay, so that's something that can take place. And then Venus and Scorpio is very good at making money overall. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Would Venus and Scorpio energy apply to Venus in the 8th house? Yeah, okay, so this is the way that you guys can see or like understand all of the placements, okay? So the planet, okay, the planet is what the energy is, okay? So whatever the planet is what the energy is, okay? The sign is how the energy expresses itself. And then the house is going to be in what area of your life, right? So when it's in the 8th house, yes, you might have some undertone energies of Scorpio energy in there, yes. But mainly Venus is expressing itself in the 8th house for you, right? So it's in the Scorpionic house. So it might be expressed in terms of maybe in your marriages or anytime you come into like a merging. That's why like Scorpio energy / 8th house energy also deals with sexuality, because it's a merging of energies, right? And also it deals with joint finances because you're merging energies, right? So Venus in the 8th house could also become very wealthy, for example, right? Because that 8th house, 2nd house axis is the money axis. So that's how you guys can differentiate between the signs. It's like, yes, it could mean similar energies, like there could be undertones in there as well, but it's like, again, the planet is going to be what the energy is, the sign is going to be how the energy expresses itself, and then the house is going to be the area of life, okay? And this energy is being expressed. You said, let's see. You said your Venus is badly aspected and it makes self-care hard for you. That's actually a thing. You said you wish that you had more Earth in your chart. Your rising is in Virgo. Your South Node is in Capricorn. That's all you have. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Do you feel like Mars in the 11th house folks may be better off not trying to have any friends? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I didn't even see your message and then I went on like the whole friends tangent. Okay, I don't know if you're still in the room. But it's like, here's the thing, okay? Mars is like how we go about getting our goals. It also deals with conflict. Mars is also how we might express ourselves sexually and just like attraction in general, right? So it's like what you might be attracted to, but also what people are attracted to within you as well, okay? So having Mars in the 11th house is an interesting placement because it's like, I just see, again, you know, I'm comparing it to like the Aquarius energy, but again, it's different, right? Because this is the era of your life. But again, you'll take on some of those characteristics. Like Mars in the 11th house is very futuristic. Like Aquarius energy, like the 11th house is very ahead of its time. So you yourself might be a very detached person, for example, but you might attract people who are like clingy, you know, and it's like maybe you might attract people who are codependent, or people who just like want to be all up in your energetic space. And it's like, you're just kind of like, okay, hold on, right? Or it's like, you might attract people, for example, you know, this isn't for Mars in the 11th, but it's just like coming through overall. It's like, you might attract people that like, let's say you say to them and you're like, okay, like, I'm okay with like seeing you like once a year. Like Mars in the 11th, like, you know, 11th house energy is like cool with that, right? Because it's like, they operate on the spiritual planes. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't have to see you all the time. You know, like we're still energetically connected, you know? It's like, you can still be in my life and like we can catch up once a year. But people, you know, the clingy people around you might get offended about that, for example, because it's like they might be codependent and they might be clingy in the sense, like in this unhealthy way, you know? BRB. You said you attract clingy people all the time. I knew that that was coming through for a reason. I just felt like that's something. I'm curious to know if you have any Scorpio energy in your natal chart. Let's see, you said you had to let go. Okay, we talked about that. Return to sender, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that you can do, return to sender. Yes, or another thing you guys can do is like, you can just like return it to the divine and just be like, deal with this like however you feel like is appropriate. Because honestly, if you are like one of God's children or just like whatever, you're like trying to be in like the purest, highest form, and someone tries to do something like negative to you, it always comes back to them, absolutely. And that's another thing. Oh, you didn't catch up what I said. Oh, it paused for you. Oh no. Okay, basically what I was saying for Mars in the 11th house was that it is the undertone of Aquarius energy, right? It's not Aquarius energy, but it's like, it's the 11th house, which has like the undertones of Aquarius energy. So what I was saying was like, you yourself could be very ahead of your time, right? In terms of like the way you perceive friendships and in terms of the way that you perceive dynamics. And you could be kind of like, I could see you once a year and we'll still be friends, because like the 11th house is like connected in the higher realms. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how they are. Like they're operating on these spiritual planes where it's like they don't have to see people in the physical, let's say, like all the time, right? And like you might attract, again, clingy people, like I was saying, and these people might get offended, for example, at that, where it's like, you're like, okay, like I'm good to see you, whatever, once a year, once a month, like whatever, you know? And it's like, you know, for them, they might kind of be like the types of people where it's like, you know, like, why don't you want to see me all the time? Or like they might be offended, or their abandonment wound might be triggered. So that's the thing. So like 11th house people or like Aquarius types of people, like they're not going to mesh well with people who have an abandonment wound, which is a lot of people, right? Like that's a core wound in the collective. So you might trigger that within them. You said that's exactly you. Yeah, that's the thing. And it's like, it's interesting because it's like, I was saying, even when I did the, you said you trigger people's abandonment wounds. Yeah, that's the thing. I was also asking you if you had any Scorpio in your natal chart, because I feel Scorpio in your energetic field as well. I'm really curious to know. But yeah, that's the thing. And another thing too, I had someone once mention, I think they were a Cancer, and like, I think they were dating like someone with Gemini. It was like a Cancer Gemini mix. And it's like, that's probably like the worst combination for a Cancerian person, right? Because Cancer wants that stability of a relationship, and like they struggle with the abandonment wound big time, okay? The Cancer energy is the most abandoned sign, and they struggle. You say you have Scorpio. I see, oh my God, I was picking up on either Scorpio moon or Scorpio rising. I wish that I said it, but yeah, that's what I was picking up on for you, which makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Like there's that energy also in your energy field where it's like, this energy just like triggers people because they're kind of like, I'm just going to do me. You know what I mean? But going back to what I was saying earlier about Cancer and Gemini is, okay, it's like for Cancer people, like manifesting a Gemini person into their life is probably like the worst thing, because it's like, if the Gemini energy is unhealed, it's like they're going to trigger the Cancer person's mood. They're going to trigger the Cancer person's wound of the abandonment wound, because Gemini is kind of like, I want to do this and I want to do that, and I want to go here and I want to go there, and la la la, I forgot about you because I found this other thing to do and I found this more interesting thing to do. So there could be a lot of this inconsistent energy. And it's interesting because it's like Cancer really wants like that, like again, home and like comfort, you know what I mean? So I was like thinking, you know, how this energy like manifesting like the other one is like kind of there to help them heal, is really what that is. Heal basically the abandonment wound. I mean, there's nothing really that you can do at the end of the day. Like everyone has their own things that they need to work through. But yeah, like 11th house people, Aquarius people, Sagittarius people, mutable people, sometimes Scorpio people, and yeah, mutable people. So the mutable signs, they are usually going to trigger people's abandonment wounds, right? Because mutable people are that type of vibe where it's like, I don't feel like it today, especially if it's like Pisces, Virgo, like, I don't know, like Virgo can sometimes be flaky too, I guess. It depends. Like maybe out of the mutable signs, like Virgo might not trigger as much of the abandonment wound, but in terms of the abandonment wound, like I would say these are the main signs that are going to like trigger it in terms of people's friendships, like in the friendships in terms of like, yeah, the abandonment wounds and these types of things. You said Gemini North Node and your attraction is to Geminis, never ends. LOL. Yeah, that's the thing, because it's like, it depends. Like when you integrate it within yourself, it's fine, right? So it's like, it's awareness, all that we can have at the end of the day, you know? So it's like, if you're aware that you have an abandonment wound, you know that it's there, right? So you kind of keep, it's like a moth to a flame, right? So you kind of keep attracting these types of people into your life until it basically stops bothering you, is really what that is. So it's like, there's unhealed Gemini, you know, and then there's also healed Gemini, right? So healed Gemini is like the messenger, and like they're a little bit more maybe consistent compared to unhealed Gemini. You're welcome. Let's see what else you guys saying here. Would your Jupiter in the 9th house and Venus, yes, be wealth indicators? Absolutely. Venus in the 8th house. Yes, Venus in the 8th house is a wealth indicator. It depends like on the rest of the natal chart to see if there is anything else that is going on in terms of the 2nd house. I'm curious to know, but yes, Venus in the 8th is a wealth indicator. Venus in the 2nd, Jupiter in the 8th, Jupiter in the 2nd, Jupiter in the 9th. These days, I would also add the 11th house in there as well. So I would add Venus in the 11th. I would also add Jupiter in the 11th because it's like you can make money through the internet too. You said, where can you find a healed sign for any man in general? Oh my God, I'm dead. Yeah, they have work to do. So good luck to them from Pluto and Aquarius onwards, because basically they won't have a choice. So I hope like they enjoy the rest of this year while Pluto is in Capricorn. Just shadow masculine energy in general. This is within all of us. Okay, so it's the energy within all of us, right? But yeah, when we go into Pluto and Aquarius, we're going into more like a feminine time, right? And we're all these energies, right? We all have feminine energy and we all have masculine energy within us, right? So it's going to be more feminine energy. That's why like during, you know, the current time and like since last year, and like these types of things, like there's been a lot of purging, right? Like a lot of people talking and like, you know, this person should act like that, this and that person should act like that, and like all these types of things of like roles, right? I'm trying to talk in code as much as I can. And it's like, you know, it's a purge, because it's like when people are trying to like, you know, when people sense that something is, it's the extinction burst is really what that is. I heard that term on TikTok. I love TikTok so much. You know, I heard that term, the extinction burst. So the energy is dying out, right? So it's shadow masculine within all of us. That's important to understand. But mainly, right, some people are more in a certain energy and other people are more in another energy. So the energy is dying out. So like when something's dying out, it's going to try to like hold on to whatever it can for like dear life, right? So that's kind of what's happening with the energy. So I feel like from Pluto and Aquarius onwards, a lot of people are just going to like be more on their healing journey and just like trying to heal the energy within and like these types of things. Let's see. Erica says, Venus, Scorpio, 1st house, opposite moon in Taurus description. Does that make females hate you? Yeah. Okay, so when you have anything going on with like moon, Venus, or moon conjunct Pluto, or if you have moon, Venus conjunct Pluto, it doesn't mean they're going to hate you. It's just tension when it comes to relationships with people who are more in the feminine energy, right? So it could be women, because usually women are more so in the feminine, but it could also be men who are more in the feminine energy as well, right? So it's just tension with people who are more so in the feminine energy. All right, you guys, I'm going to sign off now. Make sure you guys check out my YouTube channel. It's called Barbara Talks. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the likes. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your evening.